now that the dot-com bubble 2.0 has officially popped, who's the first on the chopping block? Is it all the engineers that are doing the actual work? Or is it, as we've been predicting for years, and they're cutting the useless bloat and diversity hires first? Very good question. Tech layoffs are disproportionately hitting HR and diversity, equity, and inclusion teams. That could spell trouble for companies. No, this is only a good thing. So these were always just, I guess, charity jobs would be the best way to put it. While these companies were flush with cash, while they were just rolling in the dough, they had more money than sense. They could afford to waste money on activism. They could afford to waste money on useless bloat positions. Now that they're having to tighten the belt, no fucking shit, the most useless people are laid off first. Yeah, tech layoffs are decimating HR and corporate diversity teams. And how is this a bad thing? Like, please tell me. When Stripe and Facebook announced job cuts earlier this month, affecting 14 and 30% of their workforces respectively. Wow, Stripe too, huh? They noted the layoffs would disproportionately affect recruiting because neither company plans to hire much next year. Amazon, which plans to axe around 10,000 workers, reported the same on Monday. Why would they not do this? So the best way to protect the jobs of the people that are currently working there is to not hire new people, right? It only makes sense. Now, at Lyft, which cut 30% of its workforce early November, one employee on the diversity inclusion team said most of her department had been cut, including her. They made the right choice. Similarly, Twitter, now owned by Elon Musk, saw its DIE team evaporate almost overnight. Now, Twitter's chief diversity officer, Delana Brand, resigned within hours of Musk's acquisition, and employees reported the company has since dissolved its employee resource groups. Yeah, it's called, trimming the fat. Cutting the bloat. In companies like this, the bloat eats up the majority of the money and they don't actually produce anything of value. The whittling of talent-focused functions shouldn't come as a surprise. No, there's nothing talent-based about diversity and inclusion. It's all just racism and sexism and every other type of ism. If it was about talent, it would be a meritocracy team. Though human capital investments do not provide an easily visible bottom line return, especially for consumer tech companies which prioritize engineering, research, and development. Oh, so you mean actual businesses that have actual results take priority over activism? Funny how that works. So even with pledges and recognition that people experience matters, HR and diversity and inclusion are often seen as pure overhead because they are, and perhaps a little bit distant from the profit-making engine because they are. Says Julie Kaufman, Chief Diversity Officer at management consulting firm Bain. Oh, you're probably next once Bain gets involved in this. Yeah, they are. They are pure overhead. No, diversity and inclusion teams are charity jobs. They can only exist while the company is making massive amounts of extra profit. Now that the extra profit is gone, so are the charity jobs. So, but experts caution this line of thinking is short-sighted. No, paying for these bloat jobs was short-sighted. Getting rid of them is for the best. So the market ebbs and flows, and when the economy recovers, companies that made deep cuts to recruitment or die will scramble to rebuild those teams and catch up their talent initiatives their competitors kept in place. If you've cut too much of your apparatus, something can be a real fight. Now, when it comes to recruitment, you might have a point, but getting rid of diversity and inclusion departments, that'll only benefit you in the long run. Because especially as all your opponents, all of your competitors keep this in place and they actively discriminate against the most qualified candidates because they're the wrong skin color, you can then scoop up all those more qualified people that your competitors are just leaving on the table. Now, this is only going to be to your advantage. The only way this could be profitable is if activist investors are footing the bill. Like, activist investors with more money than sense are trying to push their ideology, and they basically bribe these companies. hey, do it this way and we'll give you more money. Unless those activist investors come back and start throwing their money around again, none of this shit is naturally going to come back. The early cuts to talent operations can also set an alarming precedent. Tech companies are tastemakers for the future of work and corporate culture. Facebook, Google, and Microsoft made sizable diversity pledges in the wake of George Floyd's overdose in the George Kirby, overdose in the late spring of current year. In late spring of current year. I guess the summer of love was a lot quicker than I thought. Fortune expects us to pay for this level of journalism. I mean, take from that what you will. The sudden reversal from hailing DI and HR work to dropping related initiatives and cutting staff can inspire other industries to do the same. Now, that's good because this was only ever pointless virtue signaling. That's all it ever was. So diversity and inclusion was the fad that everyone had to parrot if they wanted to get that activist investor money. So everyone said what was expected of them and got their investor money. Now that the investor money is gone, they have no motivation to keep doing this, so they stopped. So if what tech is doing is where everyone is headed, this can be very scary for people who care about workplaces that are intentionally striving to create dynamic conditions where humans of all different stripes can thrive. So basically, the bloat in all industries is scared because the smart ones see the writing on the wall. Like, shit, money's tight, and obviously we're nothing but overhead. Of course, we're going to get gone first. It can take years to change a company's culture, given that most companies made DI commitments just 2 years ago. So for those companies, it might not be too late to turn back. The employees in culture-changing jobs were just beginning to get their footing. I would expect they feel pretty undermined and concerned, having not yet had the time to produce real culture change. If you've been able to take a successful company and make it lose money, I think you've succeeded. Says Brooks, she likens rebuilding talent functions after drastic cuts to returning to the gym after months without exercise. What makes you think anyone's going to want to come back? The only way anyone's going to come back to this destructive mindset is if they were bribed to do so by activist investors again. So tell Soros to get off his ass. It's not just flipping a switch. There's going to be atrophy of the muscle we've been building, Brooks says. It's funny how you mentioned that because focusing on diversity instead of merit, that's atrophying the brain. Slashing of HR and DI as companies tighten their belts isn't a widespread phenomenon yet. Well, the companies that want to succeed will slash it. Those who don't, well, they can go broke. Evelyn Carter, president of the diversity consulting firm Paradigm. Yep. Entire companies that make their living on the hustle. Says the organization met with 100 wealth management companies interested in DI consulting the same week Facebook announced layoffs. Organizations cutting their DI teams will find it a mistake, she says. No. Organizations keeping this racist shit are going to find it a mistake. Well, it's not going to matter because they're going to be bankrupt and they're going to be gone, so no one's going to care about their opinions anymore. Retaining functions whose bottom line impact isn't immediately obvious. No, there is a bottom line impact for diversity and inclusion. It has a negative impact. You're literally spending good money to reduce your income. Why? If this stuff is so good, why does it have to be forced through by government policies and regulations and bribes? If this diversity and inclusion shit was so good, couldn't you let the free market handle it? Yeah, companies that realize this, they'd be way more profitable, right? You wouldn't need it to be forced on everybody. The very fact that you have to force this on companies is proof that it doesn't work. Retraining functions whose bottom line isn't immediately obvious might sound easier said than done as companies stare down a depression, but leaders can still demonstrate a commitment to DI even if layoffs are deemed unavoidable. They can embed DI initiatives and best practices across functions, collaborate with diversity business partners like ERG leads, demand remaining DI and HR staff and executive, or include remaining DI and HR staff and executive meetings, and look at promotions and performance management through an equity lens. They're trying to stay successful, though. They're not trying to, like, if they wanted to go out of business, it would be quicker for them to just shut down. No, it's hard to be creative when you're feeling threatened. Wow. You're finally figuring that out, huh? Man, maybe notice that creative companies like Marvel and DC started circling the drain as soon as they cared more about diversity and equity than actual merit. What a funny coincidence that. Yeah, it's almost like this shit kills creativity, and you're trying to tell us it's a good thing, huh? But that's what this time calls for, right? Said Carter. You don't have to say, well, I'm just going to stick my hand in the sand and keep doing things as usual. Lean on your partners to help you think about how you can continue to have an impact and get their help. Nah, no, thank you. I think I'd rather be successful. So I'm going to go down that route. You can keep your. There's more diversity and inclusion for you. You can have all of mine.